Welcome to Building Better Managers, the Better Manager podcast with Wendy Hansen, where we talk with top leadership professionals about strategies you can use today to create a happier, highly engaged, and more productive workplace. Now, here's your host, Better Manager co-founder Wendy Hansen.
Hi, welcome. Oh, it's so great to have you all here today. Today, we're going to talk about how to be a resilient manager. The role of being a manager has many challenges on a day-to-day basis. The work of a manager is to foster an environment of trust and productivity and help people use their strengths so they can make their biggest contribution to the business and be happy at work. At Better Manager, we have had the privilege of being executive coaches and thought partners to thousands of people and help managers make a difference. Today, we are going to talk about resilience. My guest, Joshua Smith, defines it as physical, emotional, and psychological ability to adapt and respond to adversities and challenges. If you have ever managed people or want to move into management, there is a lot of wisdom here for you. So let me tell you a little bit more about Joshua. Joshua Smith is the co-creator of the Imposter Breakthrough and managing director of Adapt Faster Limited. He is an executive coach and behavioral specialist focusing on neuroscience-informed approaches to mindfulness, leadership, and resilience. He currently coaches executives and teams globally and leads courses in resilience, leadership, agile team building, and mindfulness in trauma therapy. Joshua has completed high-impact leadership training at the University of Cambridge, has fulfilled programs in mindfulness and neuroscience at the University of Oxford, and has trained in neuroscience of leadership at MIT Sloan Executive Education. Joshua is co-author of The Happy Teacher, 11 R's Every Teacher Should Know. As a result of his work, he was invited to the White House reception to greet Queen Elizabeth II. Joshua has presented leadership, resilience, and team-building seminars around the world. You may have guessed by now that Joshua is based in London, but he travels frequently to the U.S. for work. Welcome, Joshua. It's so wonderful to have you on the program.
It is such a pleasure to be here.
This is such an exciting topic about, we've been thinking so much at Better Manager about agility and resilience, two very important pieces of being a manager. And I love how you have been able to kind of bucket these. We're going to walk through talking about grit, curiosity, compassion and self-compassion, boundaries, and something I've thought about but never heard labeled before, energy surplus. So, wow. So give us a little overview, a quick overview, and then we're going to get into looking at what grit is.
Thanks, Wendy. Resilience is a huge field because we have so many issues in the workplace from the standpoint of work-related burnout, where we have mental health challenges and stress because it's in a situation where we're constantly bombarded with technology. We struggle with the ability to literally shut off our phones, step away from our computers, even find a way to leave work and spend some time with our families. So in our trainings, one of the challenges I often put forward to groups is, okay, it's 6 p.m. and you have a very special event that you have to go to. It's a family event, and you've told your senior manager that this is necessary, it's important for your family. And your senior manager comes to you with something very, very important to do. What do? It's your senior manager, and you don't want to disappoint this person. Do you A, just send a text, make a call, I'll be late, to your friends or colleagues? B, do you have a conversation with your manager, as in, how important is this? Can this be done by someone else? Or C, do you just do it automatically and don't even question it and just run the risk of not just running late, but possibly missing something that might be important to you? And this is about boundaries. And the idea here is having the ability to know what's important to you, having the ability to have conversations with your senior manager about being able to take care of yourself. All of this is wrapped up in our ability to respond to adversity or challenges, because that's something we all run into in some way.
Well, I think that's such a great point, and my answer to that would be C a lot of the times, which is part of the challenge, about boundaries. So let's try to break these down a little bit, because there's boundaries, but the first thing we were going to talk about is grit. Like,
yes.
How do you define grit? What's the difference between just really working hard and grit?
Right. Well, so grit is really an important aspect, because it reveals that grit is really about passion and perseverance, and about our ability to be determined and to continue to focus on the long game. And this is something that stress, because of the way stress works in the brain, it tends to, when we get really, really stressed, really stressed, our brain doesn't actually know the difference between something that's a predator in the room that could be a challenge to us, and this sense of a deadline that I have to fulfill on. So if we can't find a way to actually balance out what's really important to you, what am I really passionate about, what are things that I can do to make sure that I learn the lessons from experiences that I can apply next time, but also, again, this idea of self-care is really important too, like putting myself first, what's important to me. So Angela Duckworth did a lot of research on this with children and found that the most successful children, in terms of getting higher grades, had a higher correlation to grit and determination, and were able to contextualize things. They were able to, if they didn't do well at something, they could easily step back and try again even harder.
So that's the grit part. That's the grit part, is being able to jump back in. And I'm also hearing the piece about when you're feeling this tension and anxiety in your body, to know that's a very primal thing. We're getting that, and you're not really about to be attacked by a lion, but you could just have stress on the job. So you need to make sure you can differentiate and find some ways to kind of breathe into this and know what reality is, and think about your boundaries, which we'll talk more about.
Yeah, and also, some managers can be like lions. Let's face it. I mean, some senior managers can be very aggressive, can be even bullying. So, and this can wear down our sense of willpower even. And so, grit is also a part of that, of the ability to just stay focused. What's important? What's my long game? How do I manage to deal with whatever's coming up for me in this moment, and stay focused on goals and achievements, things that I really want to accomplish, even given that there's a lion in the room. And that's it. When you said it, breathe, self-care. I have to find ways to manage myself.
Great. So we're heading towards, how do we become a more resilient manager? So we have grit. The second piece, which is a word I am very fond of, is curiosity.
Yes.
That is the major skill and focus of a coach, is curiosity. Yes. So
yes.
How is being curious important to resilience?
Well, I love the quote in Curiosity by Einstein. He says, I have no special talents. I'm just passionately curious. I mean, he's Einstein. I mean, he developed the theory of relativity. He has a few talents, I believe, but it's one of these things. And there's a rumor, per se, that also Einstein had a bit of imposterism. If that's I don't know how true that. But it's interesting. He was somebody that was constantly questioning. So curiosity, when I lead trainings to managers, it's often about, can you basically ask questions rather than be critical? And can you explore more about the situation? Again, can you sketch a context where you have more information? This is particularly important in terms of managing staff, even setting up, having a difficult conversation or 360 reviews. It's really important to explore with people what's happening in their process, as well as in design thinking and agile development. It's important to understand what's happening with the customer? I mean, what are the customer's needs? What are they looking for? What are they really seeking that if they could have a magic wand and they could actually wave it in the air, kind of like a Harry Potter situation, what would they want to be delivered? So curiosity is critical in innovation and design processes.
When we coach managers, we often talk about if you're to be curious, you have to ask what questions instead of asking why questions, because why questions make it sound like, even if you're not, that it's a judgment. Why did you do it that way? And what questions, and it's really the number one skill, according to Google Project Oxygen, the research that was done on managers, the number one missing skill was being a good coach. And that's something that even in all of our research, it comes at the bottom of when people do their 360s and get feedback. One of the things they absolutely need to work on is to be a better coach. So curiosity is so important. And you also speak about the research on mindset and having a growth mindset as part of curiosity. Just say a little about that.
Well, the main thing is that I mentioned before about the lion in the room. The brain can, when we really stress, the blood flow actually goes away from the areas in the brain that we need online to be able to solve problems and to be able to write emails, for example. So curiosity is the way to actually keep that part of the brain switched on, right? So if you think of a lion, just think of a lion. Don't think, for example, that you're in the building and you're around concrete and people. You're actually in the savanna grasslands. It's 100,000 years ago. The brain hasn't changed 100,000 years. Point is that back then, if there was a lion, there wasn't time to think. You didn't need to think. It was just an immediate reaction, right? Fast forward 100,000 years. The brain hasn't changed. So therefore, when we get stressed, we tend to be in the situation where we're not working with all our faculties. And we easily start to become negative. And we easily start to retreat back to those old fixed patterns, the concept of a fixed mindset. And when that happens, we stay stuck. We have a negativity bias. Growth mindset is an opportunity for people to actually create more of an environment where they can learn something, where they can actually grow, where they don't necessarily have the answers, but they can explore what's the possible range of possibilities here. They could have conversations that are creative. They can do research on the net about things to find out more about the subject. So in Carol Dweck's research at Stanford, she realized with children that children, again, similar to Angela Duckworth, children who are really have that sense of curiosity, who have, in Angela Duckworth's case, have grit, Carol Dweck's case, have curiosity, have a sort of learning mindset, they just are they perform better over time.
Yeah. And I think in situations like that, we need to realize we need to take a pause. I often tell people about the 24-hour rule. We do not need to react to many things immediately, because if we let it settle through and think it through, we will have a much better answer at the end. So moving towards resilience, we have grit, we have curiosity, and the next thing is compassion and self-compassion.
Yes.
I bet you this is something that people don't think about a lot.
So true. So true. I mean, and the thing is, I've had this feedback. Obviously, I train a lot of mindfulness, and when I treat private clients as a therapist, I actually work with them to. Mindfulness is one of the most important aspects, by the way, of creating a growth mindset and having grit, the ability to pause, for example, to not be so judgmental. But compassion is even more interesting, because compassion is actually identifying with the sort of suffering of others. And suffering of others, that sounds pretty serious. But actually, it's important in terms of opening up our sense of humanity and our sense of shared humanity in that sense. And in the workplace, sometimes that's really important, because we never really know the stress that somebody is under. We just don't know. And depending on the type of manager that a person is, they might feel uncomfortable having those kinds of conversations with someone. And I'm sure you know this as well, but the research is quite clear about how managers who are more compassionate actually build more trust. And trust is very important for teams actually bonding and creating a sense of shared purpose and a sense of shared vision, it can be achieved much faster with a sense of compassion than obviously a sense of, without that, a sense of harshness or maybe even cruelty. And self-compassion, well, go ahead, sorry.
And we often talk about the, managers who have empathy are really the most successful managers. And they are able to know people on their team at a different level. We asked some questions during our 360. Do you know the names of the closest relatives or friends of people on your team? And people ask, why do you ask that question? That doesn't seem right. Well, if you don't know that, if John comes in looking really bedraggled every day and you don't understand that maybe he has a new baby or maybe he just broke up a marriage or whatever, you're not going to be able to be empathetic and compassionate about setting somebody up for success. And then we move towards our self-compassion, which I love. We actually had Paul Larson on talking about imposter syndrome once before, because that has become such a thing that's out there. So tell us a little bit about self-compassion.
Well, that's a great segue, because self-compassion is pretty much what imposter phenomenon, people who suffer from that, don't have. So self-compassion is our ability to be kind to ourselves, and most importantly, put ourselves first, but not in an egotistical and narcissistic way, but just in a way where we're realizing there are a lot of demands, whether it's as a head of a family or head of a division or head of a team. There are a lot of demands being pulled on us, and sometimes resilient people are able to put themselves first. It's a bit like that grit conversation, realizing what's my long game here? I have to take care of myself along the way. And so Kristen Neff is a researcher at the University of Texas at Austin. And this is really interesting, Wendy, because in her questionnaires, she discovered that 76% of people are more compassionate with others than they are with themselves. So basically what that means is 76% of people are more than happy to basically forgive others if there's a mistake, but then beat themselves up. And that is really something that's going to lower our resilience in the end.
Yeah. So we need to have both. We have to have compassion for others, but we can't forget about having compassion for ourselves.
That's right. People that tend to have too much compassion for others, I've noticed there's a direct correlation to over-functioning behavior and to burning out, meaning they take on so many tasks to try to help someone or to try to fill in for the team because someone's lagging behind, and they end up being exhausted.
It brings us to the next issue, which fits in very perfectly. So far we have grit, curiosity, compassion, self-compassion, now boundaries. I think you were just leaning towards boundaries on the last one.
This is my subject. Boundaries. I love it. I love boundaries. So if anybody has a question about what boundaries are like the terrible twos. If anyone has children, they have a 2-year-old or 3-year-old. And suddenly, things are just your favorite child. Everything's, going on. And then one day they just go, no, mommy, no, right? That's a boundary, right? So boundaries often are associated with our ability to differentiate ourselves, meaning can we actually find our sense of space? Can we actually find time for ourselves? Or do we feel that we have to act on behalf of others, take care of others, or do we have to do that extra email because if we don't, then something bad is going to happen, right? Boundaries allow us, Wendy, to actually say, you know what, I'm going to stop this right now, and I'm going to take a break. Or to be able to have a sense that to be able to have a conversation with someone, a difficult conversation, where I know my limits, I know how far I'm going to go, and I'm just not going to explore going further unless I step away and give it 24 hours, right, and think about it, right? So boundaries are really important, that ability just to differentiate space and know that I have my own space that is mine, and I'm entitled to that space. And if I have to protect it, then that's what I'll do by saying no, or by maybe suggesting that someone consider some other options.
Well, that brings up a lot for me, because when I think of this, how do managers set boundaries and still be perceived as a team player? There are times that I don't have boundaries, because there's work that needs to be done. And I have people that might send me an email at 9:00 at night, and I can't just say, I'm not going to answer that because it really is going to be important to the business. So how do you have boundaries and try to have a yes and on that you're also not perceived as I'm a manager and I'm in the middle of the terrible twos?
Yeah, well, actually, these are starting to come into play. So one way to have boundaries is to simply ask questions. So if you go back to that example, 6:00, you have there's a family event or something very personal. Senior manager goes, can you do this? I just need your input on it. We need to turn around. If you don't have that ability to go, so yes, I'd love to do it, and I have a family event. So what is the time frame? What's on this? Is it something that has to be done tonight? Can it be something that I look at even later this evening after my family event? Or is it something that another member of the team could actually look at first, see if they can complete it, and then if they have any problems, get in contact with them? See, without those boundaries, Wendy, we just automatically do it. We just don't even question it. And this is interesting on the subject, that the sense of, and so there's research on salaries and different salaries, how between women and men, for example. What we're finding in our imposter breakthrough research is that people with boundaries have the ability to actually get higher salaries because they have the ability to have boundaries and to walk away from something, right? They can walk away from something that's not right rather than feel so compelled to have to do it and be part of that team, right? So boundaries allow you to do that, basically. Boundaries and entitlement work sort of hand in hand, if that makes sense. So people who are entitled can say no, right? People who struggle with saying no also struggle with a sense of deserving more. Isn't that interesting?
I love the fact that you can have boundaries and still exceed, and move on to different situations. Because sometimes I look at that, it's tough. If I ask somebody for something on my team and I know that somebody else is waiting for that, I get impatient. So I'm on both sides of that fence, and I can understand that is a challenge, but we need to make sure that we can self-preserve. It always reminds me of the old metaphor we use all the time of, you're on a plane, you got to put on your oxygen mask first. Otherwise, you're not able to help anybody else.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right.
So we have grit, curiosity, compassion, self-compassion, boundaries. And the final piece of being a resilient manager is to have energy surplus. Yes. So how can managers work differently to make sure they have credit in their resilience bank account? I love that concept.
Yeah, I love it too. And I tell you, so spoiler alert, this is the most important one for me. Because I was in a room of about 1,000 people at basically a neuroscience conference, and there's a very famous neuroscientist, Antonio Damasio, who's written many books, just a very award-winning neuroscientist. And so he gives his lecture, and he goes, how many people in the room think that homeostasis is achieving a balance, or equilibrium, is achieving a balance? And everybody raised their hand. He goes, wrong. Because if all we did was maintain a balance of energy, we would have died off millions of years ago. And everybody's like shaking their head. What do you mean? He goes, put it this way. If all you did was work to earn enough money to pay your bills, right? That's all you did. That was your strategy. And then something happens where you need a new heater, you need a new dishwasher, new wash, whatever. What happens? Well, you have to go in a deficit. And that's exactly what happens with resilience. If you don't find ways to build up your energy, whether that's working out, as you were saying, pausing, taking breaks at work, finding a way for many hardworking managers. I know it's almost impossible to have a work-life balance, like that's a joke. However, finding ways to spend time with your family in those busy periods, being able to take some time when you know you have some slack periods to take that time with your family. These things are all important for creating that surplus, that positive balance in our reserve account of resilience, because adversity is going to happen. It's a bit like death and taxes, right? It's going to happen, right? So you might as well be prepared for it by making sure you do the things that energize you, that give you energy.
Right. So when you need it, you have something to take from. It's that old analogy that we use a lot about if you had a safe and you had to put deposits in the safe. If you don't put deposits in, you're never going to be able to take a withdrawal out. The bank account, the safe, all of that. So we need to take care of our energy so we have that surplus when things get tough. Otherwise, if we're already depleted, we will totally fall apart.
That's true. And you know what? Let's be honest, Wendy. It happens so much in the workplace that people do actually crash.
Right. So, wow. A lot of things for people to think about, that some of the big takeaways for me is certainly the energy piece, the self-compassion, the being able to really understand that we need to set boundaries, and it is a positive situation. We need to set them in a way that we are most comfortable with, and to understand what grit is. Like we're all gonna work hard, and it's our expectations often of ourselves. And we have to be very empathetic and compassionate with the people we lead on teams so that we know that they're going through all these struggles too. So to be a resilient manager, I always think when humans come to work every day, they come differently. And so to be a resilient manager, you really have a lot of work to do. You're not only trying to move the business forward, but you're trying to help individuals be their best self. And,
that's right.
and that's not always easy because you never know how we're all going to show up for work. And as a manager, we always talk about you're on the stage all the time. As soon as you get out of your car in the morning, people are looking at you. So you need to be able to exude and show and demonstrate the energy that the team is going to feel, yeah, we're in this today.
That's right. And if you don't take care of yourself, then the juggler isn't going to have enough energy to keep all those things going.
Right. That's great. Well, Joshua, this has been awesome. And if people have questions for you or they want to reach out to you, what's the best way to reach you? We'll put this on our website on the podcast, but give us a little information so people can touch base if they have a question.
Absolutely. So my website is adaptfaster.com, and you can send me an email at joshua@adaptfaster.com. Easiest way to get in contact with me, wherever you are in the world.
Great. And you're mainly in London, but luckily you come to California periodically, which is a lovely thing.
Yes. It is a lovely thing because I get to see sun.
Yes.
I have to go to San Francisco just to get some rays. Right?
Absolutely. And that will provide a little bit more energy for you.
And more energy,
It builds up your bank account. Yes.
It builds my credit up, baby. I'm ready.
Right. All right. Well, thank you so much for sharing your wisdom today with all these managers out there. And we look forward to further conversations. And I look forward to your book in the future and all the work that you're doing, which is very important work. So thank you so much.
Okay. Cheers.
For more information, show notes, and any downloads for today's podcast, please visit us at bettermanager.us/podcast. Be sure to join us again and help us continue to build better managers with another insightful interview.